tonight's school board meeting. Tonight is January 8th. We are currently in session. If you could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance first. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Always want to sing my country to sing.
And getting our first line of business will be to get our agenda in order. We do need to revise it somewhat to add a 3.6 under our consent agenda for a resolution to appeal. Are there any other items?
I just want to pull that item.
Yes, so we will be pulling, that's my, we should have highlighted that, which we will pull that. Are there any items that anybody would like pulled from the consent agenda? Okay, so first thing would be can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as shown with the items pulled?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So the first step would be to address the resolution. Resolved that the Board of Education of the Hendrick Hudson Central School District authorize its attorney to appeal the decision of the impartial hearing officer in SED IHRS case 76914. Can I get a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
So one abstention.
Thank you. Our next would be our topic of the acceptance of donations. And we have 4 separate donations. One would be the donation for BV. I'm assuming it's the BV PTA. For Ashokan, donation for Ashokan, a donation from the Blue Mountain PTA, donation from the HHCEF, and a donation from the Rotary. The Rotary Club is $150. From the Rotary, Rotary, it's sort of a thank you, if you will, for a presentation, a performance that Furnace Woods the 5th grade performed during a luncheon that the Rotary Club did. So that was pretty special. I imagine it was a holiday presentation.
Yep.
The Blue Mountain Middle School PTA made a donation of $1,325 to supplement the cost for a replicator, 3D printer up at the middle school. That would be the PTA, and this is part of the principal's initiative. The principal is given a certain amount of funds, and this is to decide what to do with, and this is one of the add-on items. $821.67 from the Hendrick Hudson Community Educational Foundation for the purchase of an Elmo projector. It's a document projector to teach proper reading, annotation, and interpretive skills using both fiction and nonfiction texts, which, thank you to the HHCEF. And again, $3,080 from the BV PTA to supplement the cost of Ashokan. So thank you very much to the Blue Mountain, BV, Rotary, and HHCEF PTAs and groups. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And one abstention, please, Roseanne. Okay, thank you. That brings us to our audience comments. I apologize. Are there any audience comments? Okay, that will bring us to our superintendent report.
Okay, lots of good news. We were notified today, and I have a hard copy of this for everyone to enjoy. Notified that one of our high school students, Audrey Hecht, was selected as an Intel semifinalist. This is a really
another
big deal,
copy.
isn't it? Huh?
Jasmine.
She was selected among 1,800 entrants from close to 500 high schools across 45 states, as well as 7 overseas schools. She received $1,000 for her research. The high school will receive $1,000 to support supplies and equipment to support her research and programs for other students. And we have our fingers crossed that on January 22nd, we'll receive notice that Audrey was selected as a finalist, which means she gets to present her research to the president, and they have a big reception, and her and her teacher and principal and superintendent get to go on a nice trip to Washington. That we're not sure about yet. We're not sure about the invite list, but this is a phenomenal opportunity. The district has made a huge commitment to STEM and to science research, and the dividends are certainly paying off through student success. And this is just one of many, many, many examples that are oftentimes not publicized enough of what our kids are doing in the classroom because of great relationships with teachers and rigor in the classroom. But certainly it starts with support for the board to have the vision and put the finances behind making these programs possible. So that was outstanding and incredible news that we sent out all over the place, and some of our local papers already contacted us. They're going to meet with Audrey and delve a little bit deeper into her story and her interests. So that is outstanding, and the board should be commended for supporting this initiative.
Do you know what her project is, and the research?
You know, I know it. I'm not sure. Jess, do you know?
Yep, she did some research, and I'm not sure if she discovered it or worked with an undiscovered dopamine receptor in the brain. It's a really, really cool project, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah, with
Much deserved semifinal.
yeah, with a researcher from
Mr. Dr. Quick,
from
an
Columbia.
advisor.
Yep. Yep. So
Actually,
we'll
I have the title over, might take me a second.
you have the title?
Oh, it's probably on the
Yeah,
website,
it's
right?
in there somewhere.
Oh, God, too tiny.
Interaction of a tricyclic antidepressant with specific sites in the neurotransmitter and transporter homolog, LEU, capital T.
Okay, that means nothing, but to me, it is. It's, and her parents, I can't even imagine, they must be so very proud of her.
So we're gonna line up Audrey to come and share her research with the board, so we can
Understand it.
learn what all those fancy words mean that
Exactly.
that Charles just shared. The other piece of information, and again, this was sent out electronically, but here are some hard copies in case you're interested in not reading off a computer screen. Earlier today, Governor Cuomo gave his State of the State address and outlining his policy interests for the 2004 or 2014 calendar year. And what our Superintendent's Council did is prepared a, sort of sifted through his comments, the text of his speech, and put together an education-friendly composite of what the governor would like to achieve legislatively in education. There are some really innovative ideas. Some are more innovative than others, but talking about supporting universal pre-K, supporting staff development, technology bonds, and supporting technology-based high schools, some policy issues around tax relief and the tax cap. So this will give you an opportunity to go an inch wide and a mile deep in terms of what he said. Now, what will he fund is a question that hopefully will be answered in early February when he produces his executive budget to the public, that then the Senate and the Assembly will wrestle with, and the negotiation will then begin over what the final New York State budget looks like.
I think one of the things we have to pay attention to is the technology bond. Since we just approved the bond, would we be entitled to get some of that money back and give it back to the taxpayers? So that's something I think we need to keep, just looking at that real quick, that we should keep our eye on.
Absolutely. Yep. So there are certainly at this time in the budget process, it's certainly there are more questions than answers, and it's more of a philosophical or even political position or positioning. But we'll be able to put some concrete dollars to these initiatives in early February, and we'll also have a much better idea at that time what our state aid looks like, to see if there is a positive impact to our district. So that's a piece on our budget, or the governor's position moving forward. And,
You know, Joe, there's an interesting, I was just looking at the Intel book of the 300
sure.
winners. And when the governor talks about,
Exactly.
you know, how well we do, There were 300 semifinalists, about 100 of them were from New York State. So over a third of the country's Intel semifinalists came from New York State. And a great majority of those, it looks like, came from Westchester, Long Island, and the city schools. So that's a commendable
Yeah.
commendation for how well we educate our kids and how we put them in a good place.
Yep, absolutely. And the last update I have, and once we solidify the specifics around this initiative, I'll certainly send it to the board and maybe have a more formal board presentation. But as the board and the community are aware, we received a grant to participate with the National College and Career Transition Group, a non-for-profit that's working with school districts to develop career academies and develop career interest in students as early as elementary and if not middle school. We had a kickoff meeting our last week of school in December, and we were notified then that part of our participation in the grant includes funds to send a team of Hen HUD staff to go on a study tour in Nashville. The Nashville City School District have embraced career clusters and college transitions to a really phenomenal degree and have been nationally and internationally recognized for their relationships with businesses and higher ed to support high schoolers transitioning much more easily into the world of work or to college. So we have received funds to send a team to go on a study tour, interview teachers and students, administrators, business leaders in Nashville, talk about how they set up their program and set up their relationships so that perhaps some of those initiatives could be replicated right here for our kids and our staff. So it's a great opportunity to widen our horizons and learn best practice that's going on in areas that aren't in our backyard and try to customize programs to meet our needs. So we'll have more details on that as they evolve probably later in the month.
Terrific.
So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your efforts on that, and for your analysis of the state of the for Governor Cuomo's report. And again, congratulations to Audrey Heck and Dr. Rogers.
And Dr.
This
Quick.
would not have
Dr.
happened
Quick.
without Dr. Rogers
thank you,
and Dr. Quick. But Dr. Rogers, I know what she's like. She was very instrumental in this. So
She came into my second period class dancing.
Oh.
So she's excited, she's proud.
She should be. So thank you, and that brings us to our committee reports. I know that there were several this week. Finance, audit. I know there's Reed.
TLT, technology.
Technology. I can start with finance. We will, that's actually, we'll be seeing that with the initial budget projections. That was the gist of that meeting. And the audit committee followed. That was a meeting with our auditors, and we've begun the discussions regarding the implementation of just some procedural changes that we're going to be having for the stipends in terms of putting more strict procedures in place regarding the stipends themselves. We've been getting sort of dinged a little bit on that issue for several years now with our auditors, and basically it's something to put again, it's to use the word over and over, it's put procedures in place, and also to better allow the students to take a role in the co-curricular activities as well, because part of the procedures will include just tracking and the maintaining the financial aspect of each of the co-curricular groups, and it gives them, the idea is to give them a little bit of hands-on business or financial experience, because quite often kids don't have that, and then they get to college or they leave Hen HUD, and there's, even, for some, balancing a checkbook escapes them. This is something where it'll give them a little bit more hands-on experience with that. It'll also give us a better handle on the co-curricular activities and, what functions that these, what they accomplish and what the goals and the accomplishments are and how many students are served. And it's sort of a big picture kind of opportunity to clarify this as well. We also, that would be the audit and the finance. I know, Charles, you were also in technology and Reed this week.
Yeah. Just to touch base on audit, the other members of our audit committee, the
Our
community members agreed that we needed to set in place these procedures and controls. And part of it's to be accountable for the value that we receive from the stipends, and the rest is to be sure that we're responsible for the cash that we receive. And I looked at it today, and we get about $200 and something thousand in cash in for the
various groups.
high school program, and about $40,000 for the middle school. So we need to have controls in place so that we track that money as it comes in. And that's one thing we got dinged for in the external audit. And then the
But
part
this
about
is
the
across,
value.
in all fairness, this is across approximately 20 separate co-curricular groups.
Correct.
This isn't just all one. But the idea is that it's supposed to be an educational experience for the students to learn this as well. And it's actually in the state, the state, it's legally obligated that it's supposed to be a educational experience for the students as well. So again, it's maybe to put a finer point on that and a little more focus for the students to take responsibility
And
and
we'll-
to have that opportunity as well.
And we'll run it out and prepare it and do staff development so that people understand what we do over the spring and be ready to go in the fall with this.
Correct.
So so we're in that place. The technology leadership task force, we met today. We went over some of the things that were done over the holidays. The Outlook installation and the servers that were put in. One of the things that Matthew talked about is that he's already started working with the vendor to design the networks, and they hope to start this spring with the installations. The middle school will get all new computers this summer, but their priorities, they've already started on the servers. The first priority is getting the servers done. They started those in December. They hope to finish most of the rest of them in February. Then we'll work on the switches in the network, get that done in the spring and the summer. The furniture for the computers over the summer. And then next fall or later, the Wi-Fi and the devices in the buildings. And so that's where we're going with them. I think Enrique and Joe are going up this Friday to talk to the NYSED about some of the other bond pieces. Reed met today, and it was a brief meeting. We're still trying to gather data about costs of the New York State testing, the APPR, some of the things that have been put into place. And we're trying to get an idea of what it costs per district, what each district is spending to do some of the things that have been mandated. The two districts that had information today, it looked like they spend around $110 to $150 per student to do that. When you look at it, it's half to 1% of their budget. So we're trying to get an idea on that. We're trying to get some more. We'd like to get NHUD's data in for the next meeting and go from there. But we're trying to get an idea of what the costs are to the district. For us, it looks like 2 or 3 teachers. That's a mandated cost. So we want to get that data together.
And Charles, what if, you get the cost, and then the idea is it for advocacy to the governor and the federal government?
That's exactly what we hope to get. That's what we were discussing today. What do you do when you get the data? But just like we did with the mandate relief, having actual district costs put together, you can go and talk to them about it. You can advocate, and talk to newspapers and educate people, and then you bring it forward and start talking to, if you're going to require us to do this, then you have to either relieve something or give us some money to do it. So that's,
I guess it's also educating taxpayers on
Right.
why the
Yeah, and it's dispelling you know, the initial interest or position of Race to the Top, separate from the Common Core and some of those issues, but when Race to the Top came out, it was actually, it piqued a lot of interest of superintendents and business officials because it actually looked like a funded mandate. You know, we received some startup money, and what we're realizing doing these analyses is that it doesn't even come close to what the actual cost of maintaining Race to the Top or Common Core really is. So it's certainly used for advocacy and to say, you know, the funding you gave us, not even close to being adequate.
Right. The things that we're looking to try to capture costs on are APPR costs, changes in Common Core standards, data analysis costs, and testing costs. You know, what does it cost to have administrators supervise more tests and those kind of things. And so, even today with just 2 districts reporting in their data, there were significant variations in these areas. You know, one district had chosen to go and do their own curriculum development and buy curriculum materials, and another one just used the state materials. And so, you know, there were significant differences. So we're going to try to get several more districts to get their data in.
I don't think there was, I believe policy was
We had a
canceled.
conflict with Reed and.
Correct, so that's, okay. So, were there any others?
That was it for me.
Thank you. So that would bring us to our presentations and discussions. And that would be the initial budget projections.
We don't know. Okay, good.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight is our first night of very long nights coming, and we're going to talk about the budget. This time around, we're going to do it a little bit different just because everyone knows there is retirement incentive for the teachers union. Based on the number of people that retire, our budget will be a little bit different. So tonight, I just want to give an idea of what the New York State cap is and where we are compared to New York State. This year, the year 13-14, the New York State cap for all the school districts and municipalities in the state was 2%. For us, the number was $40.9 million, and it was an increase compared to the prior year of only $300,000. And for us, the cap was only 0.74%, less than 1%. For next year, unless there was a major inflation in the month of December, we expect the New York State cap to be 1.5%. And for us, it's going to be between 0% increase to maximum 1% increase. That means that our tax levy for next year is going to be between $40.9 million and $41.3. Our budget, the revenues that support our budgets are usually divided into what we call non-tax revenue, meaning non-tax real estate tax revenue, and the real estate revenues or tax levy. For the non-tax revenue, we have state aid, the money that we receive from the state that we expect to increase compared to this year around 6.6%. Our BOCES aid, which is money that we get back from BOCES for using their services, we expect an increase of about 8.3%. Other income is mainly interest income and some other income like we rent classrooms, et cetera, et cetera. For several years, I've been saying that interest rates are going up, and they are not going up. So finally I gave up, and I feel that interest earnings will be close to $200,000 this year only. Sales tax is the tax that you pay when you buy anything in Westchester County. So when you go shopping, don't feel bad about the tax that you're paying. They are coming back to your schools. Finally, transfers is some transfers with the cafeteria fund. Fund balance is the money that we're moving forward from this year to next year, and we expect to be about the same as last year, $1.2 million. And finally, our pilots payments in lieu of taxes, we expected to increase about $1 million. And if you remember, that's part of our Indian Point year-to-year increases, and our RESCO increase from the RESCO settlement. That will bring us to non-tax revenue total of $32.2 million. So for these numbers, we use several assumptions, and these are going to be the assumptions that we're using also for our budget. The major ones are, like I said, our state aid is going to increase by 6.6%. BOCES will increase by $60,000. TRS, Teachers Retirement System, has informed us that the rate that the school has to pay as a percentage of the teachers and administrators' salaries is going to be between 17.25% and 17.75%, and that's compared to 16.25% for this year. So again, a substantial increment compared to this year. ERS for us will only increase 1%, and it's going to be about 14%. And this is because we're financing the ERS rate. For those school districts that didn't finance it, ERS for the first time is going to go down, but still their ERS rate is going to be around 19% compared to 14% for us. So in our next meeting, I'll bring a lot more detail on our budget, but at least I want to show the community where we stand on the tax levy. The community was a little bit worried during the capital project that, you know, it was going to be an increase there, and again, a substantial increase in the budget coming May. So here I just want to show that the maximum increase that we'll have in the tax levy is going to be 1%.
Thank you.
Enrique, on the other income, where I guess it shows we had that substantial loss right there, where are we recognizing the program that we have at Frank G. Lindsay? I know that that's been bringing in money into the district. It's self-sustaining, the program, but I thought it was also, we're making money on that program for the district by bringing back, and we're also not spending as much money on the special ed, transporting the children out of the district.
Yes. That program is bringing revenue only from one student.
Okay.
But probably that money is just offsetting account codes. The rest of the money is just an offset. So if I had a child going to BOCES and costing me $100,000, what I do is my account code for BOCES goes down $100,000, and then I have to hire one teacher for the class. So my teaching salary for that teacher goes up $100,000. It's not revenue. It's just expenses that I'm lowering them, and they are going from one account code to the other one.
How much are we saving by bringing those students back into the district?
I'll give you the exact amounts when we discuss the budget for special ed, but I can give you an example. In one of our classes, we have about six children that we brought back. Each of them, in average, cost us $110,000 less state aid. That will be about $90,000 net. So we're talking $360,000. That class probably has one teacher, 2 teaching assistants, and the total compensation for the 3 of them might be $200,000, $220,000. So.
Significant savings.
So there's savings. And by the way, the great thing now about the school district is that our interim special ed director, he used to run the Artsley program. And he knows and understands when to open a class because he understands the financing. And actually, by coincidence, that's how he invited me back in Artsley to look at the numbers, and that's how I got involved in education. So he's very knowledgeable about the getting new classes, but being sure that there's savings.
Good.
Any other questions?
There will be further. This is just preliminary because
This
at
is
this point
very
there is
preliminary.
some- Okay. So stay tuned. This is just the beginning of the next 4 months of each separate meeting will have another topic, so,
Yes.
but, thank
You
you.
know,
Thank you.
To go to the point, though, that Carson was, Dr. Gottlieb may be able to address it, more than just savings, it took us a long time to put those programs into place so that we could do it the right way, so that the kids were benefiting from it. It's a great savings, but it's also a good benefit. Those kids don't have to go.
Bring them back in the district.
Yeah, you bring them there at
And the
home.
families,
Yes.
yep.
So,
So
but it took
it's-
us a long time to put a program in place that was correct.
And it's working beautifully.
And we're building on it.
Both parts have to work together. If we take into account, obviously, that it's better for the children, but then on the other hand, we take into account that it's going to bring some savings to the school.
Yes.
Okay. That would bring us to our next topic, which would be the Kinder Camp and Early Childhood Education. And that would be 2 separate
Yeah, I can
conversations.
introduce them. I had the privilege when I started my career here in July. It was a great time to meet people and talk about programs and all the great things going on in our district, but there weren't really kids, not until August. And the first group of kids I met were at Buchanan Verplanck Elementary School, part of our Kinder Camp program. So I met Dr. Jen Lefevre, who I refuse to call her Lefevre because in France they pronounce it Lefebvre, so that's our little joke. But Jen introduced me to her program and her students, and then subsequently introduced me to Terry Outhouse, one of her colleagues over at BV, who has done some work and some research on early childhood. And it was a great conversation, and then Alice and I started talking about the history of this program, and we talked about pre-K and my professional experiences working in the district with pre-K, and there was a lot of urgency and excitement that I thought was very appropriate to share with the board and for the public, their work and their research. Earlier today, as I mentioned briefly, the governor, whether he will fund it or not, also has a passion for pre-K. So there are great examples and opportunities of early childhood education in our own district. Perhaps there will be funding mechanisms for us to make pre-K more affordable moving forward. And there's no better time than now to talk about what our district is doing and has done to support early childhood education, to make sure we have preparedness and readiness for Kinder Camp, or for kindergarten through Kinder Camp, as well as some research on early childhood education that both Jen and Terry will walk us through. So with that, I welcome Dr. Jen Lefevre and Terry Outhouse.
I want to take an opportunity, as Joe said, I was afforded the opportunity to do my research as part of the Future School Leaders Academy program that the district helped put me through. So, I have to thank the district for allowing me to have this opportunity to now share this information with you, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to have the time or the opportunities to really dig deep into something that I'm extremely passionate about as well. That's a little hard to see. In 2012, the district, with Dr. McCann at the time, conducted an elementary enrollment study. And it was to assess the impact of our new academic standards. And we're looking at special education, ELL, and the economically disadvantaged students. 2 of the 3 recommendations we are currently offering. We've decided the ICT classes, how that was going to be divided among the 3 elementary schools. We worked on, and I say we because I was part of that elementary study, it was decided about how the ELL programs would be conducted and where they would be. However, we are here to we are here to ask the board and the district to recommit at analyzing and looking at the impact that these new standards are having on our economic disadvantaged population. So the big question is, are all our students ready to learn, or will they be? We want them to be. And part of our, the Hendrick Hudson, the district's mission is to ensure that our students are an engaged, passionate learner who achieves his or her maximum potential and contributes to society. And it's part of our responsibility to provide more opportunities for all students to enter school ready to learn. And as you'll see in the next few graphs, based on the 2011-2012 New York State report card, the Hendrick Hudson School District currently has 17% of its population that are eligible for free and reduced lunch. And since 2008, it has significantly increased. And I'm not going to sit here and define what economically disadvantaged is, because it looks different for every child and every family. We know with the downturn of the stocks and the economy, it's going to look different. So I'm not going to define that for you. It's what you will have a picture of in your head. If you look again at the next slide, this shows the trends by building. So from 2008 to 2012, again, these are based on the New York State report cards. It shows the trends of each building, and these are the students based on the beds reports that the percentage of students in each building that are eligible for free and reduced lunch. And the data is very glaring. So here you see some empty chairs. And these empty chairs represent the children that our decisions impact. Each and every decision we, Dr. Lever, myself, the principals, Joe as a superintendent, or you as board members, impact the children who show up and sit in those chairs every single day. And I think I'd like you to take a moment to put a picture and visualize what that student may look like. Has that child had an opportunity to have a preschool education, or what sort of opportunities have they been exposed to before they enter our buildings? And I'm not going to ask what that picture looks like, because again, for each one of you, it will look like something different. Every single child that sits in our classroom has a different face, and they have different backgrounds and different needs going on. But again, it's just an important thing to recognize that these empty chairs reflect the students that we teach and we see every single day. Which brings us to the development and the history of the Kinder Camp.
And I also was part of the FSLA program that Terry spoke about.
Yeah.
It's hard to hear. Sorry. And the Let's Get Curious About Kindergarten came out of the FSLA program and went back 2 superintendents ago with Joan Thompson, and was an administrative project for me to work on, and began in the summer of 2006. So Kinder Camp actually began as a workshop in summer of 2006. And what we did was we looked at what was happening. The Hendrick Hudson Free Library was also looking at starting a program for 3- and 4-year-olds at the time. And we worked in combination with them to see what we needed and what our children needed. And we were noticing a trend in children coming into kindergarten lacking basic concepts in vocabulary, language development, fine motor and gross motor skills. And so with the help of a grant from the Hendrick Hudson Community Educational Foundation, we, myself and Megan Prokopiak, who was a parent and a member of the HHCEF at the time, started Let's Get Curious About Kindergarten. And in the summer of 2006, the Let's Get Curious About Kindergarten program was a workshop. 40 children were identified from the district kindergartens that were coming into kindergarten in September based on what we were using at the time as a screening device, which was the kindergarten readiness test. All of the children we looked at, anyone who scored below a 70% was invited to this program, and that year we had 40 children. Of those 40 children, 17 parents committed to come, and those 17 parents with their children attended a one-day workshop. That year, that's all it was. We had 2 days, and the parents had a workshop with their child. We worked on activities together, how they could read with their children, write with their children, different activities to get ready for school. We did some field work a little bit, did some surveys, and there was a good response to that. So for the summer of 2007, the district committed to actually starting a 4-week mini camp. So that was the second year, but the first full program that we had, and that was still called Let's Get Curious About Kindergarten. And it was an hour-and-a-half program. I tied it into our summer academy program at the district, so the kids actually came from 7:30 to 9 o'clock in the morning so they could attend summer camp afterwards. And we did a combination, and we actually walked some of our children from BV over to the Buchanan Day camps. They were able to have both experiences. And that year, again, 40 children were eligible. Of the 40 that were invited, again, it was a 70% cutoff on the kindergarten readiness test that we were using at the time. And the children were invited, and they represent children from all different buildings. And I'll go through the specific children numbers in a few minutes. 2008, the program changed its format, and we based on parent feedback and attendance rates, and we used 2 weeks in July, 2 weeks in August, again for an hour and a half. And the staffing for these programs increased from a parent volunteer and myself to 5 teachers, a speech and language person, a special ed teacher, a kindergarten teacher, and an OT on staff. And that was based on the needs we were seeing year to year in our kindergarten classes. Summer of 2009, it again followed the same format, 2 weeks in July, 2 weeks in August. And we continued to have the parent sessions, which are key pieces of the Kinder Camp program. In 2008, parents came every Friday. Kinder Camp was Monday through Friday at the time. And they would come on Friday, do an activity with us, and then the parents would leave, meet with a special ed teacher, myself, Barbara Whipple, our OT, and have a parent session while the children finished up their day. In summer 2009, we continued, but the parent sessions changed because parents were having a hard time coming. And we had one session each month. So one during the July session, one during the August session. And again, we were looking at how parents could help their children with fine motor skills, kindergarten readiness, and a lot of just basic kindergarten questions. Who's going to open my children's milk? How are they going to get off the bus? Who's going to meet them? 2010 followed the same format, 2 weeks in July, 2 weeks in August. In 2011, we also followed the same format, and we were beginning to increase to 2 hours for each of the days. 2012 made a major change to the Kinder Camp program. Dr. McCann had spoken to me and wanted to put a real emphasis on Kinder Camp and really try and target these kids and get them ready for kindergarten before September came. And we changed to 4 hours a day. So that's a long time for 4-year-olds. Most of our children are 4-year-olds, some 5-year-olds, but it worked out very well. And in 2012, we actually added, and 2011, we added a Spanish piece for our ELLs. We happened to have a lot of children coming in and a lot of parents who were bilingual and a lot of families that really spoke mainly Spanish. And so we actually had some help from Maria Zenon here at the high school, and then also some volunteers at the Hendrick Hudson Free Library. And we conducted our parent sessions in both English and Spanish. In 2013, this past summer, was a huge change for us. We again had 4 hours a day, and we are only in August. And what we're finding is we're getting a better turnout of children when we have our program in August instead of July and August or in July. And leading right up into the beginning of school, that transition to kindergarten is much better. And again, we have 2 parent sessions, one towards the beginning and one towards the end. And if we look at the next slide, okay, I'll talk about why this is so important. What we've seen over the last, I'd say about, looking back about 10 years in my career, our children coming into kindergarten aren't ready for the heavy academics, and that was before we even had the Common Core. We were having these issues with children. They're coming in with a decrease in their fine motor and gross motor skills, lack of exposure to language, vocabulary, common concepts. And so we're seeing a real deficit on the academic side, and now we're increasing those academics with the Common Core and a lot of changes that have happened with all of the math and reading things that have changed with Common Core. There's also an increased need in the social and emotional learning that they need before they can even access the academics. And that's where a lot of our push has come for using play as an instructional method. And we also need to work on these learning behaviors, and the children are coming in, they're not able to sit and listen to a story, they're not able to sit for the amount of time that's needed for the increase with the Common Core. And so we have to put things into place to get them ready, so they are ready and we can make them ready to leave when they leave kindergarten, ready to do everything that's expected in first grade. Kindergarten isn't what it used to be, and we have to put these things in place before they even come to us, because a lot of the children, even though they have preschool experiences, may not be giving them enough to get them ready for what kindergarten is asking today. And a lot of our children aren't having a preschool experience at all, and that's what's behind the 8 ball before they even start. For
I'm
me,
sorry,
the biggest
just
piece
sheer
of
curiosity, what
Sure.
percentage of our children don't get a preschool experience?
I don't have an exact percentage, but I know for the 2013-14 group, we had about 15
Okay.
children across the district that did not have a preschool
Oh.
at all.
It's not, it's like 15 across, not 15% or.
15 children
Okay.
out of the number this particular year. I
Okay.
just happen to know that off the top
About
of my head.
10%.
So about 10%. But again, even some of the children that have preschool experiences, the preschool experience is not equal across all children. But one of the biggest pieces about Kinder Camp that has been so important is the parent piece. A lot of our parents coming in are unaware of the increased expectations in kindergarten, and they don't really know. They didn't know that they should have had their child practice writing their name, or that they should be reading to their children. And we make assumptions and we assume that people are doing this, and they not always know what's expected. And they kind of get hit at Meet the Teacher Night in the middle of September with, oh my gosh, I didn't do this. So at least when we're in August, we give them a little bit more, we make a connection with them. It's a much more relaxed environment, so they don't feel that pressure that they might feel come that Meet the Teacher Night where it's really intense.
What is the social and emotional learning and the play instruction? I mean, how does that make them better learners?
Because if you are asking them to talk to a friend, if you look example in kindergarten with the Common Core with the Engage New York Math, one of the activities that is part of the lesson is actually to turn and talk to a friend and talk about the concept. Well, if you don't know how to talk to someone or how to engage with somebody or to listen and wait your turn, then it's almost impossible to do these activities. So you really have to teach the children how to do these things first before you can move on to the other concepts. And being able to play, manipulate the materials, and engage with the materials in a learning way. A lot of kids will pick up something and have never played with it before. So they need that time to expose it and experience it. And that's how children learn. They try different things. They might use the material one way today. Tomorrow they'll use it a different way. And then they make those connections. They say, okay, and I see this is 3, but I can make 3 this way. And so it kind of pulls those pieces together. And this is just what's developmentally appropriate for them. And what I always tell my parents when I'm talking with them and we're discussing different things, everybody understands that their children are going to learn to talk and walk at a different time. But when we get to kindergarten, all of a sudden everybody has to do everything at the same exact time. And it's not true. That child who started walking at 9 or 10 months may do something advanced at age 5 that another child who took a little bit longer to learn to walk needs a little more time to develop. And so there's a lot of different things and skills in place and that you need before you can even get into the academic learning. And what we're seeing is their children don't know how to socialize, and they don't know how to control their emotions. They don't know how to wait their turn. They don't know how to deal with frustration. They don't know how to deal with sitting for an extended period of time. You know, and when I'm saying extended period of time in kindergarten, I'm saying 7 to 10 minutes. You know, and that's important, and that's all things we need to.
So self-regulation and social competency and
Exactly.
I just have an experience. This is my first year in kindergarten. I taught reading in the district for many years, and when I had to do our beginning of the year writing benchmark test for kindergartners, the anxiety in some of these children because they didn't know what to do with that pencil, they didn't know how to form a letter, they didn't know anything like that. We set up a kitchen, we put out food, I go to the dollar store, I buy little pads of paper, and they are running around asking, can I take your order? What can I do? And now they are freely, it's scribble, it's lines, it's drawing, but they are freely in an non-threatening environment writing. However, you put that piece of paper in front of them and give them a on-demand task, they freeze. So when you talk about play, it's those types of experiences that they were just so excited about. A dollar store spiral notebook pad that they were able to now say, Mrs. Outhouse, what would you like today? And you place an order and they go into the kitchen and they bring it back to you. And so it's those types of experience that was really rewarding for me. And it showed how they just brought the pressure down and the anxiety down of them doing what's natural for them, and they're learning in a natural environment.
That really sums it up in a nutshell, is what we're talking about. But I'm sorry if I wasn't clear in how I was explaining. But to look at some of the results our programs have had, now this is very, and most of my record keeping is anecdotal. And with 4- and 5-year-olds, that's the best kind of data we have. And if you look, we've pretty much consistently invited about in the 40s, 45 children every summer, and our numbers have varied depending, and I really don't know what causes that variance, but everyone is invited. This year was done electronically, and it seemed to work a little bit better. We had a huge response. I had 36 children respond, and then I ended up having a few children that didn't come, but I had children the first day of Kinder Camp, 4 new people show up. So our enrollment has been incredible over the 7 years that I've been doing this. And as you can see by school, we have pretty equal between BV and Frank G each year, but the majority of our students do come from BV, the BV school. And last year we had 12 of our students attend our program in Kinder Camp, and we only had 31 kindergartners total. So almost half our kindergartners came to Kinder Camp last summer. We had a very small enrollment last year, and half of our kids came. And it's been wonderful. It gives us a connection with the children, the families before they come. It gives us a heads up. And we've had over the years several children who the first 3 weeks of school would have been horrific for because they had such school anxiety. And we were able to work that out in August so that first day of school was a positive experience. They got on the bus. Mom didn't have to drag them from the car. So there's a lot of the social and emotional pieces that take place in August. And we're able to really stop a lot of things, and that first day of school can be so positive for everybody. So that's just a little tip, and everyone I've always invited anyone who wanted to come in August to join us. And the benefits, put some pictures up, but just really the children have such a positive feeling about school. There's so much less anxiety, and parents have anxiety too. When you're putting your child to school for the first time, you're putting them on that bus, there's a lot of anxiety, so we talk a lot of parents off the edge. And it's one of the most important parts of our program. And the children can enter kindergarten with an understanding of rules, what a community is, how to get along, how to share. One of the hardest things is how to share that adult. You have 22 children, how do you wait your turn when you want that teacher's attention? And what they're going to be expected to do, and then also that communication between home and school. We start that communication right off the bat. So I have to thank the district for allowing me to work with this program, to include it, improve it, and have it grow since I was an admin intern. So it's been a wonderful experience for me, and we see the benefits in the classroom.
Do we have data on how the children that attend this program do an RTI or those other types of screenings when they had first grade or later?
I don't have that type of data. The last 2 years I've been collecting data on the groups. We do a Brugance screening now for incoming kindergarten, so we do a Brugance in the spring at their home school, and then a second Brugance is done at the end of Kinder Camp. And then I do have a little bit of data that I used as part of my doctoral work, where we looked at children that attended Kinder Camp and whether or not they were referred to the IST teams, the CSE, if they received remedial services, and that was during, I believe, the 2008 school year. But we haven't followed up that much specifically up until this point. It can be something we could do this year, and I would look to do that.
Thank you.
I just wanted to thank you for this work. It's exemplary, and we just really appreciate it because
Thank you.
all the research shows we need early childhood education, and especially with the Common Core, which is so language rich, and there's so much research that says the students who, especially economically disadvantaged, do not grow up in homes that are language rich.
Right.
And there's such a disadvantage, and the numbers are shocking. I mean, was it 40% of students? I mean, it's higher. It's high. I mean,
Yeah.
so thank you for the work, and I think our grant committee can look into more opportunities to get funding for this. The state, we should be lobbying for this. I think it's great, so thank you for the.
Well, and really, and if you look at all the research, you get the most bang for your buck when you put the money into the early childhood. It really doesn't take a whole lot if we can put it in place and we have the programs.
That's something Reed should be, advocating. And there's not really a lot of money right now with the tax cap, but the state kicks in.
You're allocating, that's where
Well,
you
what
want to
Reed,
go.
one of the things that Reed was looking at, the things that we were looking at took up most of the tax cap increase this year. So there doesn't leave a whole lot. One thing I wanted to touch base on, I was just looking at some graduation rate information this year, and it doesn't have for economically disadvantaged, but in June 2012 in New York State, the graduation rate for all students was 74%. But those that were college and career ready was 35%. For just graduating, English language learners graduated 34%, which is less than half the rate of all other students, and students with disabilities at 45%. For kids that were college and career ready graduates, though, ELL students were 7.3% of the total in the state, and students with disability were only 5% of the total. So to be able to get those kids where they're ready to learn faster is something that we absolutely have to do. I mean, that's a striking disparity.
I can tell one specific story about one student from last year's kinder camp. He came to us, he was not screened ahead of time. He had been in the country for 2 weeks. He came in mid-July with Maria Zenon. We were able to get in contact with him, they registered. He spoke no English whatsoever. He spent 3 weeks with us at kinder camp. And the English, picked up within those 3 weeks, and then by the end of the year, he left reading and, passing all benchmarks for kindergarten. And that was, 12, not even 12 months in the country. And so really just.
It's a really interesting conversation to have around pre-K and what the motivation is to fund it. Because coming from my previous district in Elmira, we received around $3 million of federal funding for pre-K. 16 classrooms, 16 teachers, aides, art, music, everything. It was school. It was in the school, and I'd be interested, and we can find this data to look in our region. Let's say Westchester County. What districts have a pre-K program, and is it federally funded? And that is all a calculation of the district's wealth ratio. Because some of the folks I'm having conversations with as we talk about recruitment and retainment of families or making Hendrick Hudson a destination district, it would be really interesting to collect some data to determine what if we funded it. Either we went out and found different grants or corporate sponsorships, but if we had a HenHUD pre-K, I wonder what that could do to our ability to recruit families here. Because I gotta believe that families are coming out of New York City or wherever, and going to districts that have universal pre-K, the parents don't care how it's funded, they care that they have it. So districts like Peekskill, and Lori and I just talked in her district in Elmsford, and small cities like New Rochelle, Yonkers.
Awesome.
Be interesting to determine, are there districts that don't qualify for UPK funds that are doing it, that are going at it on their own? Because that would be an incredible recruitment tool. And something for us to consider going forward.
It's not just
Mechanical?
economically disadvantaged to attend this. There's
Yeah.
students
Sure.
from,
Right.
students could be just have,
Yeah.
challenges and just be young for their age or many reasons.
All of the research around early childhood and early warning signals and being able to provide, Charles, you mentioned 2 weeks ago or at last board meeting trying to get every child to read at grade level in 3rd grade. Well, now we have an extra academic year to make that happen and create the environment. So perhaps Alice and I can dig around and do some research, but that would be an incredible, it would be expensive, but, it would be a good discussion to have.
Yes.
I have to add, we have an extraordinary level of expertise here that most districts don't have. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next presentation we are not prepared for tonight. We're going to bring in our 3 elementary principals and representatives of our reading, writing, and math committee for the 22nd. So we'll be prepared to share with you updates on adopting and adapting to the Common Core and curriculum and assessment and what our teacher leaders and our grade levels are up to. So we'll save 8.3 for January 22nd.
Okay. The only other thing we would just add, and this is a very, my request would be fairly quick conversation because we have beaten this, done this for some time, the board goals.
Oh, God.
Roseanne, if you could just cue that up. I sent it to you earlier.
You did, and I have to go the other.
Okay. I'm just glad it wasn't that I did it.
Did you get my note?
Yeah, there was a discussion, when she cues it up. One of the questions was performing, I sent the copy of, to include, there was some discussion about adding play, and Mr. Hochreiter came up with a comment, a phrase that he hoped would satisfy that, pick up on the nuance there. And that would add to maximize development, support the potential of each student, and in an educational environment where rigor, relevance, innovation, and application are embraced. So basically, using those resources and using those skills to make it so that it's to transition and that the students would get the most out of.
We have the PowerPoint,
It's actually coming up?
oh, it's
Okay.
coming up, perfect. Sure, it's not-
Just like to
I'm
welcome
sorry?
Lori Ryan to the
And it
meeting.
just- it's gonna come out.
Just like to welcome Lori Ryan to the meeting.
Oh, Danny's leaving Friday, can't wait.
Lori, I'd just like to welcome you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining
It's a
us.
mixture of the blonde and the cold, and it's just like, I just can't do it.
I give you credit for coming out, though, because I got to tell you, I would have been just like,
I was in Ardsley, I'm like, what?
Oh, Lord. Someone should have given you a calendar for Christmas.
We would send out reminders for board meetings.
Yes.
Buchanan Hardware has calendars.
There you go, and they're free.
But welcome.
Har, 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 yes.
This is what happens, we had time here, so we
Too
just
much.
figured.
Thought you had a resolution not to come.
Happy New Year.
So, Chaz, would you like to comment?
What?
If we could,
Mom's upset.
Blakey,
Make him speak in front of Mom.
we
and
could go to the
sister.
next screen, please. There you go. So this is the phrase in red that basically was the add-on that would hopefully incorporate the concept behind the play.
Educational, right.
Um,
Relevant innovation,
Is is that suitable?
Anyway, can you go back a
Oh.
minute? and
I'm fine
just
with
the-
it. Well, that was the first. That was the first one was just the cover sheet.
No.
Well, the first one
No,
was,
we lost
go
it.
back.
Oh, can you go back one? Thank you.
There we go.
That
We
was-
have rigor in the second part. I
Correct,
don't-
but this is just basically just that it incorporates, all of these. These ideas are embraced in all of these. And this is, basically it talks about the environment as opposed to the curriculum, which, making the distinction there. I mean, if you feel it's redundant, but the idea was to get the sense of,
We can take rigor out.
that it would be a place that children would want to.
Innovation and application. I know, that's what I told you. That horse is beaten. I don't want to say it in front of
Is
the
it hearing the
jury.
attorney saying it's a little too wordy? It's a little wordy.
Well, I'd like to just,
Well, we were
frankly, I'd
trying
like
to get away from the word play.
And did we put the safety in anywhere? The safe environment? Is that late? I don't remember.
This is academic.
No, this is academic.
So,
Motion to approve, so moved.
Well, we need, there's one more I want to change, but we can talk about this again next
no,
goal.
we're not, no, this is it. Because
No,
we're.
not next meeting, but the next time we make goals.
In-
I mean,
Correct,
we've
absolutely.
made a lot of
This is actually
changes.
something that we'd like to just resolve now
Yes.
because we're
And
approaching
move
budget
forward.
season, and, 6 months later, this is, enough is,
What do you think?
You're right. That was the only change?
there is actually, and then, well, there's the next screen, there will be a change. Thank you. To perform consistently in the top half of Westchester Putnam School District New York State Education Department tests. Carol sent me an email saying I thought that was coming out. So we can remove that. if
Just the
that
New
was
York State test part of it.
The New York State.
Yeah, it was.
Chop
Yeah,
that
that's fine.
Okay.
last part of that line.
So we can take that out.
Right, so
Okay.
perform consistently in the top half of Westchester Putnam School
Okay.
Districts.
Okay, so that will come out. The fiscal goals.
Wait, I wanted to make one change. We're on this page. Instead of saying improve the college and career readiness, I'd like to say improve the college and career ready graduation rate.
That's a
No.
made-up topic. That's a
No,
made-up.
let's leave it.
No, that's what the state says. No,
But
the
college
state-
and career readiness is the graduation. I
No,
mean, they're-
graduation rate is one thing, and then if you're college and career ready is
But why would
another.
you want to graduate them if they're not college and career ready?
I want us to continue improving our graduation rate. The one main product that we have as a district is matriculated students. And if we can't demonstrate that we are graduating students,
So they're gonna start giving us a number.
that's what we need to do, is graduate students.
But
who
you
are-
want to
Talking about a
graduate
graduation
college
rate,
and career
or-
readiness.
Well,
You want to graduate
We've just
students,
been
you don't
working
want
on
to
it.
just graduate them, socially promote them. You want to,
So
students are.
college and career ready
So if you're
graduation
improving the
rate.
college and career readiness, by definition, those are students that are ready to graduate.
But if
So
we say
those students
graduation
graduate,
rate,
the
if-
ones that are not college, the ones that are not graduating, the ones that are not college and career ready.
That's not always true. I think we should maybe say improve the college and career readiness and graduation rate of our students, because they're different.
All right,
I don't
Okay.
even know what college and career readiness exactly means. I don't
well,
think-
that's,
Okay, we'll
there's
add
some
that in.
discussion about that.
What's-
There's some discussion about that, because people are saying if you graduate a student who then has to take remedial classes in college, are they college and career ready?
Charles, there's a phrase that once you get what you want, stop talking.
I'm
So
done.
we'll add in graduation rate, improve the college and career
It's
readiness.
a different measure. It is. I mean, it's just.
So we'll add that in as well. The fiscal goals, the methodology and belief statements, there was no change, nor for the goals themselves, which is the next screen, please. So there's no change there.
Well, no, I'm joking.
The governance methodology and belief statements, the next screen, please, didn't change. And the next one was nobody liked the word insignia, so the implementation of a unified recognizable identification for the entire district. Whether it is a brand, whether it is a symbol, whatever, but it's a recognizable identifier, so. And I'm sorry, I think it was just as a flip, the academic, the academic goals, read, write, and one of the students
Calculate.
actually said do math, so I put calculate. Yes, that was our new word for do math, so we put calculate. Other than that, there was no changes. So essentially, the changes in red will be adopted. We will add the graduation rate and take out New York State Department tests, and if we can get this will be our goals at this point, and we are done. Okay, thank you. Do we need to vote? Can I get a motion to approve the goals with the adjustments as shown? All those in favor? There you go. That brings us to any audience comments? None? Just enthralled everybody, so. Just to wrap it up, you're here now, so we just treat you like everybody else, but is there anything that you as a student would like to contribute or add, or any thoughts?
I think it's all good. Nothing major changes from
Everything's
last
cool?
time. Everything's
Okay.
great.
Mr. Callahan's like going, phew.
Oh, there's one. No, I'm kidding.
There you go. Borrowing from Carson here.
Right, exactly.
No, he's messing with it. So our next meeting will be January 22nd. It's the next Board of Ed meeting.
What is that?
We'll send Lori a special invite.
We will send a car to pick you up.
Meetings I went to today, oh my God.
And there is a meet and greet coming up. To be honest, I apologize. I'm not sure if it's this Saturday or the following. Please just check the website.
I think it is.
In the interim, thank you very much for coming out, and good luck staying warm.
Oh, no, you're all staying a little
So-
longer now.
Can I get a motion to close?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.